This is our Aboriginal Studies 30 presentation 5.
We're covering the impact of colonialism on Aboriginal people in Canada, stereotypes perpetuated through the media.
Canada is considered a prestigious member of the first world with a thriving economy and industry, high standard of living, and democratic government that supports and protects its citizens. When countries of the global south are compared to Canada, the disparities become enhanced. However, even as these comparisons are interestingly eye-opening, the world's eyes seem to only quickly glance within Canada itself, overlooking an incredible contradiction. Within Canada, people are suffering greatly. The First Nations of Canada in particular have been marginalized and exploited since the colonial age. They have been stereotyped for generations as their relationships with the First World has left them with a shattered culture and a society polluted with social issues. To this day, First Nations of Canada are not recognized at a world level like many other cultures, ethnic cultures of the world.
Stereotypes of natives, the negatives. All First Nations are alcoholics. I don't know. I'm not. I know a couple that aren't. All First Nations are lazy. Not true. All First Nations live on reserves. Not true. First Nations receive special benefits and privileges from the government. First Nations overreact to their likenesses being used in school celebrations or as team mascots. Positives. First Nations people are spiritual and wise. First Nations are connected with the animal kingdom and nature. Most First Nations are dancers, storytellers, and well-educated.
And these are some examples of stereotypes of nations. Way cool outfits. So, which are you? A sports team mascot or a Disney character? The other one, really, you don't look like an Indian.
Hollywood stereotypes. Hollywood and cartoon film industries have assumed or characterized First Nations in a negative view for many years. Since the time of black and white films up to the modern day films of today, not a lot has changed in the stereotypes of First Nations. Hollywood film industry did not use real natives for the movies. Instead, they used white actors and actresses to fill the roles of Indians. Examples of stereotype films are movies such as John Wayne, Burt Lancaster, and Iron Eyes Cody films, who are all white or foreign actors. Walt Disney and many cartoons also played a role of stereotyping First Nations that can be offensive in the First Nations view. Examples are shown in the next slide.
These are stereotypes of the media. Peter Pan, Family Guy, Pocahontas, the White Squaw, Apache, and the Real Injun.
Clothing and costume industries have stereotyped or portrayed First Nations women's regalia image as revealing and provocative. Women did not wear headdresses and men did not wear headbands in First Nations culture. Colored feathers and incomplete regalia are not a part of Native history. I don't know about you, but my clothing doesn't come that cheap. And I never dress that way.
89 bucks.
Stereotypes through media. For many generations, First Nations dealt with racism and have been stereotyped through the media. First Nations have been stereotyped through negative images, racist words, and bold racist individuals. Some media and individuals of Canada have taken upon themselves to label First Nations through the use of such words as savages, wagon burners, prairie niggers, squaws, the drunken Indian, etc. Racism and stereotypes still exist today in Canadian media.
For an example, Sun News, the Shocked Hitler, Washington Redskins mascot, and the drunken Indian.
In conclusion, since the first contact with the Europeans, First Nations of Canada have dealt with stereotypes for many years. First Nations have been stereotyped through media, Hollywood films, cartoons, sports teams, costumes, and racism. Stereotype has been a big challenge for all First Nations and it's an ongoing battle. First Nations of today are standing up and changing stereotypes through teaching real history and culture.
This presentation was brought to you by
Donna McHugh.
Cody Wright.
Galen Bulber,
And Ashley Wolfley.